And that sums up the list of words you can't say on the radio. So,
sorry.
They actually. Oh, this is the society we live in. There actually is a list of words that you can't say on the radio, and you actually have to read these to be on the radio. And I have to hear, and I have to tell you, it's your mind just gets soiled from reading this list, and it's just an indictment of. I'm like, who would say this on the radio? But apparently,
anyway,
in the Bible, there is a certain group of people called the Nephilim, and a couple hundred theories have come out. I don't know if it's a couple hundred, but
I know of at least 2
theories have come out about who these people are. And I think this comes from, I know it's in Genesis, and I feel like it's Genesis chapter 6.
Oh.
Right before the flood. So the flood's chapter 7.
Oh, okay.
I remember that because 7, like, they're completely wicked, and then the flood.
Gotcha. That's a good way to remember it.
Yeah, I know. That's why I came up with it. Chapter 6, it mentions a group of people. It says, "Now it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves of whom they chose. And the Lord said, My spirit shall not strive with man forever, for he is indeed flesh. Yet his days shall be 120. There were giants on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. Those were the mighty men who were of old, the renowned."
Does your translation not?
Yeah, read yours.
Chapter 6, verse 4 in the ESV says, "The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came in to the daughters of man, and they bore children to them. These were the mighty men who were of old, the mighty men of renown."
Okay, and the word Nephilim is Hebrew for either mighty ones or fallen, I guess.
Okay.
And so that's why mine's just translated as mighty ones. Okay.
Sure.
And so this leads to the theories of who were the Nephilim.
Yes.
All right, well, let's start with what we know. The Nephilim were giants. They were on the earth before the flood.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, tells us that very plainly. So, tell us some of the things that you've heard, guys.
Just a little bit more scriptural context. In Numbers chapter 13, when Moses sent the 12 spies into Canaan, they came back and reported, and they said that the Nephilim were the descendants of the Nephilim were there. In Numbers 13:33, "Now there we saw the Nephilim, the sons of Anak, who came from the Nephilim, and we seemed ourselves like grasshoppers, so we seemed to them." Just reaffirming the fact that they were like massive.
Mm-hmm. All right. So tell us some of the theories that you've heard. Who are these guys?
I heard that Goliath was.
Okay, you heard that, right?
That's one of mine.
Okay.
Okay. I've heard that because it describes as the sons of God saw that the daughters of men. I've heard that the sons of God were angels that either were already fallen or became fallen angels that came and had sexual relations with women. And so that's one theory I've heard, that they were angels that came and impregnated human women and had massive angelic human babies.
All right, and this is coming from
really no scriptural context that I know of, just a theory.
All right.
Another thing that I've heard is that when it says the sons of God, it's simply a reference that Adam was made by God, and then when it says the daughters of men, a reference that Eve came from Adam.
Okay.
So and kind of refuting the angel part. I don't know which is accurate, but those are the two that I've heard.
All right, and Tanner, you've heard that Goliath was
One of the descendants.
One of the descendants. Let's talk about that one first because it's probably easiest.
Okay.
Goliath was before or after the flood?
After.
So he would have been a descendant of
Noah.
So if Noah was a Nephilim, but only if Noah was a Nephilim, I think when it talks about the giants being descendants of these guys, it's more metaphorical. Kind of like when you watch a Greek movie and you see like they're going up a really big army and they're like, these are the sons of Zeus.
Right.
Like not meaning it literal, meaning like metaphorical. Because the only way that they could have been sons of these guys is if it came through Noah. Because you had a flood between them and only Noah and his
descendants survived. Right.
Alright. So that's the Goliath thing. Okay. Let's talk about for a minute the demon thing.
Okay.
Alright. We call them demons in our culture. Before that, they were called devils. You know, now we're used to referring as the devil, as
being
like
Satan.
The chief devil. But, you know, the Bible talks about all the devils. Okay. But before they were devils, they were angels.
Yes.
Okay. And so devils are just angels. When Satan, also known as Lucifer, sometimes called the devil, rebelled, he took a third of the angels with him.
Yes.
Okay. For the devils to have had kids, the devils would have to be able to have kids.
Right.
Okay. Let's go to Matthew. And the key to researching any passage that seems ambiguous is taking what we know, what we're surely sure of, the principles that are clear, and building off those. Not taking the passages that are ambiguous and then building on those.
Right.
Okay? Alright, so if we go to Matthew, chapter 22, a little context here. Until I figure out where we're going to start, you can put your finger on verse 23. The Sadducees did or did not believe in the resurrection.
Did not.
That's why they were sad, you see. That's how I remember it. The Sadducees didn't believe in the resurrection. That's why they were sad, you see.
I see.
And so they're trying to trick them. You know, sometimes they're like, well, you know, where did Cain get his wife? Or where, you know, sometimes people ask these silly questions that they think are going to trick you up, and you're actually, you know, we're actually like, well, no, we heard about that last week on Adan in the morning. That's no problem. You know, how did God get a giraffe on the ark if it was sticking through the head and it was, you know? All right, so they're trying to trip him up because they don't believe in the resurrection. They come to him saying, verse 24, Moses said that if a man dies having no children, his brother shall marry his wife and raise up offspring for his brother. Talking about the kinsman redeemer law in Leviticus 25. Now there were with us 7 brothers. The first died after he had married, and having no offspring left his wife to his brother. Likewise the second and the third, even to the 7th. Last of all, the woman died also. In the resurrection, whose wife shall she be? I'm hunching that they didn't really have that happen.
Yeah, there was no such scenario.
I'm guessing that was like a theoretical situation. I don't think they came to him and said, hey, we're wondering, like, could you please teach us here? I think they were trying to trip him up. And Jesus answered and said to them, you are mistaken. You don't know the scriptures or the power of God. For the resurrection, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like the angels of God in heaven. Okay?
Yes.
Alright. So, we know that the angels don't marry. We know the angels aren't given in marriage.
Right.
So they're neither grooms nor brides. If angels don't marry, then they're not procreating.
Right.
Right? So I gather from that verse that angels aren't having kids. So that leads people to go, and I've heard this theory, oh, well, shoot. Then if angels can't have kids, then what they did was they possessed men to
do it for them.
But that wouldn't make them giants. That wouldn't give that. Why would they be men of renown?
Yeah.
Like
that.
See what I'm saying? Nothing physical happens there. Here's what I just see, and here's my problem. I accidentally read this passage before I got indoctrinated with a bunch of different theories.
Okay.
Okay. So here's what I thought it meant before I went and read a bunch of different commentaries.
Yeah.
That the sons of... back in Genesis chapter 6, verse 2, again, we're answering who are the Nephilim. Chapter 6, verse 2, it happened that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves of all whom they chose. All right. Here's an interesting question. Who are the sons of God?
Right. That's kind of a crux of it.
Well, all right, let's go to John chapter 1, verse 12.
Okay.
Because, again, I have this habit of interpreting Scripture with Scripture. And so I can't make this line up with the commentaries I've read, but we're going to look at Scripture. John 1:12 says what?
Says, "But to all who did receive him, who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God."
All right, talking about sons of God. You're just translates.
Yes.
That's weird because some ladies have gotten upset that it said sons.
Right.
But as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God.
Right.
All right. Even to them that believe on his name. And if we go to Romans chapter 8, verse 14, it says, "For as many are led by the Spirit of God, these are the sons of God." And if we go to 1 John 3:2, "Beloved, now we are the sons of God."
Yes.
All right. So let's go back to Genesis.
Who are the sons of God?
So it seems pretty consistent about who the Bible calls the sons of God.
Yes.
Now it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and the daughters were born to them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men. It doesn't call them daughters of God.
Right.
Okay. The sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves of all whom they chose. Let's go back to the tree for a minute. It says that Eve, tree of knowledge of good and evil, she took the fruit that she wasn't supposed to eat,
And saw that
she
it was
saw that it was
appealing.
pleasing to the eyes.
Right.
Okay. And she did what she wanted. So the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were beautiful,
Okay.
and they took wives for themselves of all whom they chose.
Gotcha.
And so what I always thought that meant, I thought that meant that holy men, sons of Adam, sons that that knew the word, they had heard it from Adam, and they had heard it from Seth, and they'd heard it from Enoch, and they'd heard it down and down and down. Went, you know what? Rather than marry wives who follow the same God I do, I'm going to marry wicked wives because they're pretty, and that's what I want to do. It's like when it says every man did what was right in his own eyes.
Right.
All right. And then the Lord said, "My spirit shall not strive with man forever, for he is indeed flesh." There were giants on the earth in those days, and also afterward. And see, this is when it calls them mighty men of renown. The word Nephilim can be either translated fallen or it can be translated mighty.
Okay.
And so this is the word itself has led to much confusion.
Right.
When the sons of God came into the daughters of men, when they bore children to them, see, and that children to them is what is making me think that that's not angels.
Right.
Those were the mighty men who were of old, men of renown. I think the word Nephilim creates I think if that word wasn't there, no one would have struggles with all these weirds. I've heard people talk about it being spacemen.
Are you serious?
Sure, why not? How's that more far-fetched than
Fallen angels?
angels coming down? You know?
Oh, yes. There's that.
Because think about this. If that could happen, think about this. What if you were the son of a fallen angel? Like, how messed up does our theology become at that point?
Yeah. Yikes. I've
Right?
never considered that.
The moment we go into strange spots theologically, that road goes somewhere.
Right.
Okay. My opinion is that godly men chose ungodly women because they wanted to and it was pleasing to them. You can have your opinion. As we were saying, at the break, don't take my word for it. Don't take Matt's word for it. Get into the Bible. Ask the guy that wrote it. Ask the God that made you how you're supposed to live. But that's going to be my opinion on the Nephilim. Tanner, Craig, any comments?
Does that mean there could still be some today? Because if a godly man today decides to go towards an ungodly woman,
Yeah, well, I don't think that was necessarily the dynamic that caused it. I don't think it was like, if you want your kid to be a basketball star, make sure that you
marry an ungodly
basketball
woman.
star.
right. I don't know if that was the dynamic that made it.
All right.
I think that it just happened to be,
What about?
because we don't know how big. God talks about King David's mighty men of valor,
Yes.
and we don't know how big those guys were. They were certainly small compared to Goliath,
Right.
but they were mighty, and they were mighty because they were filled with the Spirit. The Spirit of the Lord came upon them, and so I think, in the same way, these mighty men of old were mighty. It calls them sons of God. I think they were mighty because the Spirit of God was upon them.